Despair has engulfed this world. Despair that humanity has never faced before. Humanity has fallen into unprecedented chaos, because they are faced with terrible and unprecedented creatures. Mysterious creatures demanded the blood of citizens. This news thundered all over the world, but people who realized that they wanted to use them as food decided not to give up in front of monsters and creatures that appeared out of nowhere were nicknamed bringing misfortune. To cope with a powerful enemy, people began to use nuclear weapons. But for the monsters, it was just a bright firework. In response to him, they began to dance on the ruins of destroyed cities. And when all hope was lost, when every man was waiting for the hour of his death, they appeared, the 13 constellations. 12 people who were chosen by the gods became known as saints. Each saint used the powers bestowed by the god who chose him, but there was also a 13th awakened one that was not chosen by any divine being. And it was Li Gang. In order to defeat the red-eyed monster, which was considered the root of all evil, the chosen heroes appeared in the demonic tower in which this bastard was hiding. Well, now it's time to exterminate him. Li Gang and 12 other constellations clashed in a fight with Red Eye. But what's the matter? Why did only 12 return? Reporters were alarmed by this news. Did something really happen to the hero of Korea, Li Gun? In response to all these questions, one of the constellations stated that the well-known Li Gong sacrificed himself for the sake of all mankind, and after this sad speech he let out tears. But this is utter nonsense. Li Gong really risked his life, but he wasn't going to sacrifice himself. He barely managed to defeat the red-eyed demon. But in fact these damn bastards escaped, leaving him alone. And despite this, he was able to win. When suddenly a knife was stuck in his back and, having surprised such a betrayal, he fell into the abyss. One of the scum who had escaped, as it seemed to him, stabbed him in the back with a dagger and left him to die in some hole. And moreover, the mutilated guy was not alone. A very pleasant company of monsters was assigned to him. There was no living place left on the guy. His left arm was cut off, and he did not feel his right at all. It would have been much easier to die right away. But he wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to die like this. The guy promised himself that he would live until he found every scum who dared to betray him. Soon he will come for them. In the house, a friend turns to Li Gang at the dinner table and warns him that he is destined to die tomorrow. The blonde kid's name is Hugo Otis. He has the holy sign of Sagittarius. However, did his interlocutor not understand his warning, or did Taiksu have such a low opinion of him? Soon it dawned on him. Most likely he said that because he took 2 chicken legs? Without the caring guy with the stamps, his name is Li Gang, he is the 13th awakened. A friend corrects a friend and reminds him that his name is not Tychus, but Hugo Otis. But the man in the hood does not hear these words and tells the blonde not to be afraid, because he is definitely not going to die. Li Gang has killed more misfortunes than all 12 constellations put together, and how can someone like him die? But the blue-eyed guy is seriously worried. The demonic tower is the abode of the most terrible monster that can bring death to all mankind. It all started on the last day of the 20th century. Powerful entailing misfortunes drove humanity into a corner with their overwhelming power, leaving behind only utter darkness and chaos. It was at this moment, when humanity lost hope, that 12 gods appeared who called themselves sacred entities. They swore to endow humanity with a force that would be able to fight back against all monsters. Soon they recruited 12, who were granted indescribable power. But something happened that no one expected. The 13th awakened appeared. He didn't have the blessing of any sacred entity. Moreover, this awakened one was so strong and incredible that even the 12 saints were no match for him. And who could such an incredible hero be? Of course it was the great Li Gang. The blonde thanks the guy, because only thanks to him and his strength, their team will be able to organize a raid on the demonic tower. But gratitude alone is not enough for the black-haired guy. In return he demands from Taiksu the supply of fried chickens for 5 years ahead. At the same time, the blonde one is interested in how you can eat chicken alone, and he also corrects his friend again, because his name is not Taiksu, but Otis. But the black-haired man does not like this name, because it sounds stupid. The rest of the comrades are discussing a possible reward for defeating the red-eyed monster. The man offers to demand at least $100 million for defeating such a dangerous monster. After hearing these nonsense, Li Gang advises the uncle to better request a 10-year free stay in a 7-star hotel somewhere in Hawaii, because of the red-eyed bastard, many countries are on the verge of crisis. But Li Gang's advice was not appreciated, and the fat man says that if the kid wants to cooperate with him, then he should set the bar higher, for example, to heal his disfigured body and face. These people are called saints, but in reality they are a bunch of scum who only care about their own skin. They also ask him not to rush to the aid of anyone else. A small number of victims will allow them to fill the price, from which the reward will increase. But the guy does not want to listen to such nonsense. There are disgusting scum in his team. Once they've dealt with Red Eye, he hopes to never see them again. Having gone deep into the cave, their gazes are directed upwards, but now they were able to see the Lord of the Demonic Tower, or as he is called, Red-Eyed. The guy only after looking at the monster feels a terrifying pressure. Soon the monster opens its mouth and the earth shudders from such an event. Soon it completely cracks and disappears from under its feet. The whole team falls into the insidious trap of the demon. And the demonic tower emits unimaginable energy. The saints were scared to death by such a phenomenon, seeing hellfire, a trace of the terrifying power of the red-eyed demon, and soon the heroes of humanity set off from this hellish place, because their lives are much more valuable. The disfigured guy looked around and was completely disappointed in these named saints. In his opinion they are more like bags of shit. Well, it doesn't matter to him, he's going to be the one to kick Red Eye's ass. There will only be a great and unsurpassed one. With these thoughts, he disappeared from the place and appeared directly above the monster. After that moment, various thoughts were buzzing in his head, for example, that his comrades betrayed him and ran away. He was wondering how much time had already passed. After all, it is not clear whether time flows the same inside and outside. He is even too lazy to think about something, because right now he just continues to shred monsters. Because this place is a special trap in which new and new hordes of monsters continuously appear. But even with his arm torn off and a dagger in his mouth, he's not going to give up. Did they really hope that he could be defeated by a pathetic bunch of monsters? Wait, he will surely survive and tear to shreds all those scum who dared to betray him. Time continued to move forward and 20 years have passed since he was abandoned. The monster was lying on the floor, and a scarred man was slowly approaching him. The monster could not believe in such a thing, because how he managed to get here alone. The demon was inexorably calling for help. It was difficult to understand which of them was a real monster. But all this does not matter, because this is the last and surviving guy, mercilessly kills the poor guy. He finally finished and finally he will be able to get out of here. But abruptly the dungeon began to collapse and the exhausted guy loses consciousness and is crushed by a pile of stones. Outside, the city is in a terrible state. The residents are desperately trying to escape and two guys are running with all their might right now, because they somehow miraculously ran into high-ranking monsters. One of them was running and crying at the same time, because their situation could not be worse, and also today a fortune teller told him that he would meet a monster with whom he should not associate himself. At this moment, one of the wolves catches up with them and crashes into the nearest wall and throws the boys away. Now they are surrounded. Before he dies, the guy talks about one thing, namely that these damned monsters would not dare to show up if Mr. Li Gang were here. At that moment, the gates of the demonic tower opened slightly and a bright light illuminated the poor people, after which there was a huge explosion, and now a strong wind illuminated the poor people. Now there is no trace of the tower. The guys who are trapped under the rubble see that someone is coming out of the fog, but who is it? In the distance, a semi-naked man appeared in front of them. He clenched his fists and was already ready to take his revenge, because he was stabbed in the back and left to rot in that hole. Here are the brutes, but now they are in full ass. After a couple of minutes, even worse ruins remained from the ruins. The swamped guys did not understand what was happening in front of them. The man beat high-ranking monsters with his bare hands. It was hard to believe, because he easily dealt with the attraction of the orange class. And even high-ranking awakened ones are not so easy to finish them off. It feels like a man is not a wolf, but a helpless insect. After finishing with the dogs, the guy saw the spectators watching from behind the shelter, and immediately after that disappeared in a second. But at the same moment the guy's shelter was smashed to pieces by him. The frightened boys asked them not to kill them, but the overgrown man simply did not expect to see people here and believes that his work here is over. At the same time, the guys were fiercely discussing this phenomenon, because this person came from the tower. Isn't this a real sensation? But the second one does not agree with Jimin, because is a person like him capable of returning from there alive? Most likely, he just happened to be nearby when the tower began to collapse. But the arguments of the two were quickly interrupted, because a huge wolf appeared behind the unknown man. The guys couldn't believe their eyes. It's the leader of the pack, Now they're definitely screwed. The guys are trying to warn the long-haired man, but it's too late. The wolf has already begun his deadly attack. The fire was so strong that it could easily blind a person and destroy anything. This flash could be seen anywhere in the city, but despite such a powerful blow, the guys managed to survive. When they opened their eyes, they saw the same unharmed man in front of them, and there was a burnt-out earth around him. It was hard for the guys to believe it, but this strange guy saved them. Smiling, he rushed after the lousy mutt and swinging his fist, the guy offers the dog to be obedient and orders to sit. The guy's jaw dropped from what they saw. The nameless monster knocked down the poor doggy with one blow. Well, now he hopes that he has definitely finished in this area with monsters. And now, having done a good job, he turns to the survivors. They stood rooted to the spot and the terrible monster turned to them. And with a smile on his face, he asked me to buy him some food. The guys had no words, and he also remembered that clothes would not fit him either. Soon in one of the establishments, an empty plate hit the table. The guys would have preferred to die during the recent battle, because this man is a monster not only on the battlefield, but also in terms of insatiable hunger. He alone ate food for $1,000. But the already fort hero mentioned, the guys said that they didn't have much money, so he ordered some food, but this answer did not calm the mentally injured. Still, Jimin wondered who this senior was? A Templar or a bishop, and what was he doing next to the tower? The man picking his teeth said that he was inside the tower, and then just walked out of it, but the strange man was also interested in something. Why does a magical aura emanate from the guys, even though they look like ordinary civilians? At the same time, one of those present began to praise Jimin, because he is a Templar. And then the guy had a counter question, isn't the man the same Templar who received the blessing of the sacred essence? But the shaggy man declares that he is not going to wave his tail in front of some deity. Having said this, he turned to the spoon he was holding in his hand, namely, to the reflection in the spoon. When he saw him, the guy turned to stone. And abruptly jumped up from his seat, demanding a mirror. He urgently needed a mirror. The waitress pointed out where he needed the object. And then Li Gang took off his t-shirt without thinking. His body was completely cured. His old wounds were so terrible that it was simply impossible to heal them, if you think about it, and his lost left arm, he did not notice how it appeared. By the way, he saw a strange pattern of unknown origin on it. Looking at him, the pattern appeared, namely it was a snake. At the same moment he felt incredible pain and all his nerve endings felt incredible pressure, after which a sign appeared in front of him notifying him that he felt death on himself. Plate after plate appeared in front of him. He completed an impossible achievement, and all his past skills were inherited by a new body. Also, all achievements from the tower will be converted into experience points. He also learned a divine skill and all unique traits and skills were inherited and transformed. Now the power of the Ophiuchus is available to him. Soon he closed his eyes and found himself in a dimension unknown to him. There a huge snake appeared in front of him, and he decided without hesitation to reach it, and touching it, he woke up. A worried Jimin was standing in front of him. He gave his hand to his savior, but he was in no hurry to get up from the floor. Li Gang asked the guys if they had seen a hefty snake by any chance. But the blue-eyed youngster hurries to explain that they did not see any snake, but only that the man suddenly took off his clothes and ran to the mirror, and the man began to scream and squeeze his wrist. Looking at the cook again, Li Gang realized that the rest of the people do not see this. And then a notification appeared in front of him again notifying him that he had become the owner of the constellation, Ophiuchus, as well as other notifications appeared in front of him. The overgrown kid got himself the ability to super-regenerate. After what happened, his body was generated from scratch. In return for this he was punished, namely, his physical strength was reduced by 50%, and this debuff will last even more than 1,000 hours. Now he could understand why he looked like this. However, he had never heard of other saints seeing something like this before. Besides, he does not feel the energy of sacred beings. But be that as it may, he is satisfied with this alignment of events, because his body has fully recovered. Now all he has to do is hunt down the traitors who left him for dead, and especially the scumbag who stuck a dagger in his back. From just one thought, he feels an incredible anticipation of sweet revenge. Police tapes surrounded the ruins. The demonic tower, once considered an indestructible fortress, was suddenly destroyed. This news will definitely put the whole world on its ears. The guy in the jacket says that this place had a special connection with Li Gang. Is it possible that this vandalism is the work of his followers? Or maybe it was the saints who did not like the guy. But the guy with the badge has a slightly different opinion. He notices a monster that is difficult for even a high-ranking saint to get away with. Who could challenge this monster, and also destroy the tower? At the same time, the guy in the jacket gets the idea of his friend. Did Li Gang really come back from the tower alive? Soon, reporters wanted to hear comments about the fact of the destruction of the demon tower from Yang Wei. Does the saint think that Li Gang could return alive? A saint with the sign of Aries, Yang Wei declined to comment on this news. And after that, he left the conference. Driving in his expensive car, he broke his glasses out of anger. He only hears the name of Li Gang all day. How sick of it! Was this monster really alive for 20 years in that infernal tower? The fat man calms himself with the thought that this is impossible, because there are thousands of deadly creatures and they were all black class. It was already a miracle that they managed to get out of there. Having stolen the throat of the red-eyed one, the mutilated guy could not survive there in any way. His body was already on edge at that time because of the deadly attacks of that big guy, and the guy wasn't even wearing proper armor, unlike the rest of the armor. But if by some miracle he managed to survive and return, then the man exhaled smoke. Then everything will come to an end. At this moment, Li Gang decided to start with this bastard. A plane is flying in the blue sky. The action has moved to the airport. A noble man comes down the stairs from a landed car. He is greeted by personal guards. It is a great honor for them to meet one of the 12 saints. Mr. Hugo Otis, the holy sign of Sagittarius, got off the plane. A blond man asks the people in black about where the Prime Minister is. To this he is answered that he is waiting in his office, as well as transport is already waiting. Then the guy is going on the road without delay. The guards are surprised, because this is what a truly chosen person looks like. Soon he was already sitting in the car and his attention was attracted by the ringing phone. With annoyance on his face, he suspects that these are annoying reporters again. He does not believe that the stories about the return of Li Gang have become so popular. 20 years have already passed since that moment, and with this thought he turns over the glowing phone and remembers the events of the past days, namely that he warned his friend about the deadly danger, but he did not take it seriously. When they attacked the demonic tower, at Li Gang's request, the blonde youth went outside and held off the incoming hordes of monsters. He wanted to believe that his premonition was deceiving him, and that his friend would be able to return alive. But when he met the saints, he did not see Gang with them. The saints who went inside with him abandoned Li Gang and returned with the head of the red-eyed. Soon the whole world became aware of this event, and at the same time 12 saints, including Hugo Otis himself, were recognized as heroes and gained even more influence than before. After the incident, not believing in the death of Gang, he again and again asked the saints to start searching for him, but the holy sign of the dark cancer under the name Jean-Louis Morin offered the boy to abandon this idea. Because he himself knows about the number of monsters in that demonic tower, the hero said that there is not a single chance that the mutilated guy survived. But if Hugo Otis is really so worried about his friend, the impudent man offered to go and start looking for his friend alone, and then the list of saints will clearly be reduced to 11. Morin laughed at the very thought. Unable to do anything alone, he had to clench his teeth and remain silent in response to ridicule. He regrets to this day. But Li Gang really could not survive, no matter how strong he was. It's just impossible. Besides, too much time has passed since that moment. He remembers his old dead friend. When suddenly he is distracted by a call from the Prime Minister himself, the old man asks if Hugo has heard about the news that has spread and mentions that the demonic tower has been destroyed. But the blonde guy is tired of listening to the same story, and declares to the Prime Minister that if he wants to ask to start looking for Li Gang, he has to refuse. Because his friend died that day, the hero assumes that this case with the tower was most likely set up by his fans. And if the Prime Minister wants to take advantage of this situation in order to gain votes. At this point, the old man interrupts him and explains that this is not the case. There is a report that has just been transmitted to the government of South Korea, and this information is reliable. Namely that a call was made recently on that number. The guy does not understand what it is about. What other call? At the same time, the old man answers, a call to Li Gang's personal number. This news shocks the boy and he can't believe his ears. He demands to stop the car right away, and it comes to him that then maybe there was that recent call. Turning on his mobile phone, he found 30 missed calls, and a voice message was sent to him. Hopefully he clicked on it and leaned it against his ear. He also heard the words, "Hey, Taiksu, I'll find you and finish you off, see you later."